Good evening, and welcome to Bring It to the Table. I pray that you've had a good week. It's Friday, and I know you're getting ready for the weekend. But as I say each Friday, get to the table with a glass of wine, apple juice, orange juice, coffee, tea, water, whatever your desires are, and relax. Tonight, I'm excited about this guest. She's a sister in Christ, and she's a friend, a dear friend. So tonight we're going to talk about being a caregiver. And the reason for that is because so many people forget about caregivers. And they go through a lot. Some are misused and mistreated as being caregivers. It works both sides of the fence. So tonight we're going to get into that. But before we get started, let me give you the request line if you choose to call in. It's 310-910-9676, extension 1. Again, 310-910-9676. And we are going to, I think we're going to have a good time tonight because I'm interested in this, and I'm interested in some questions and just how deep, if I could use that word, being a caregiver. We all have some kind of compassion about it, but just how deep that compassion is, that's another thing. So, as I said, get to the table and let's get started. But I'd like to also at this time first thank Mr. Lehman Scott for this song, Her Mystical Journey. Sydney, this song was written for me. And I can't thank him enough for doing that. And I haven't met him face to face, just by telephone. And he asked me, well, tell me about yourself. Give me a little bit of history about yourself. And I did. He says, okay, well, give me a day or two. And I gave him a day or two and called him, and this is what he came up with. That's awesome. But in the meantime, let's get started because I know it's so much to talk about and it's so much to say, and we only have an hour, and that hour goes so fast, so I don't want to waste any time. I just want to say, Sydney Davis,
hello.
It's so good to have you here. Hello, my friend. Hello, my sister.
My sister, Gigi, it's so good to be here.
Yes. Listen, what I would like for you to do is tell me, how did you get started into this, and what made you get into this?
Yes, well, my career has been in music. I've been a professional singer, songwriter, and actress for many years. And one of my dear friends, who's also a singer, she had taken her uncle into her home because he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I had met her uncle several times at family functions and Christmas dinners and so forth. And then she told me that she had brought him in, and she had a caregiver for him that was, with him during the day. And one day she called me and she said that her schedule changed. She was working late at night, and he was alone for several hours, and she was a little nervous about that. And she said, Sydney, can you just come over and just, sit with Uncle Herbert, for a little while? And, with your personality, I think it'd be good for him because, the caregiver leaves and I don't get home until late because she was working on a project with her job. So I said, sure. So I would come over and kind of sit with him and talk with him and so forth. And what I noticed, now he was... his diagnosis was Alzheimer's. And as you know, Alzheimer's is a very progressive kind of disease. So when I first got with him, he could remember a lot of long-term things, about his life, and he liked my personality. And I thought, well, what's some things we could do? And so I bought my dominoes, and we would play.
The domino player.
He was, but well, I used to be, but when I played with Mr. Herbert, I played what we call simple dominoes because of his memories. All we did was just match the numbers, so whoever played the last domino won. But it was good for his eye coordination and hand coordination and so forth. So we would do things like that. Maybe I'd fix him dinner. Then my friend told me that the caregiver that they were letting her go because they discovered that she was verbally abusing him. And with an illness like Alzheimer's, sometimes a person can get into what they call a loop. Well, they will ask you the same question over and over again. And I guess this woman, maybe she started out okay, but I think it got to a point where it was weighing on her nerves. So that's something I learned early on with caregiving. You have to deal with how it affects you so that you can even do the job well.
How it affects you personally?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think that's what happened. Because I had met this woman before, but I think that she just got a little overwhelmed, and I think with dealing with a person who keeps asking the same question over and over, after a while you lose your cool. And so I had to work it out because I was still singing and teaching voice, and we were able to work out the time. So when I got with him more full time, then I had to take it on a little differently, and I thought about, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but I'm going to treat this man the way I would want somebody to treat my uncle or my father. So I think that was the first thing that I learned just instinctively about caregiving, giving care to somebody. You have to treat them like they're your family, you know? And so I thought of things. Well, he's just sitting around the house all day, so I don't like sitting around the house all day, so let's do something. So the first thing I started to do was just to get him up out of the house. Maybe I'd take him out to breakfast, and then I would take him to the Inglewood Senior Center, and they had a gym there, so he'd get on the treadmill, on the bike, and he'd talk to people. And I would take him different places, and then there's used to be there. After COVID, it closed down, but there was a coffee shop in Inglewood, Coffee and Donuts, and a group of older men would meet there every morning. So whenever I would take Herbert, they would talk to him in that way that I think older men would talk. And it was healing for him because he wasn't as much engaged in their conversation, but listening to him, he'd laugh.
It was someone that there were a group of men that was around his age.
Yeah.
They talked the same language.
The same language.
And that is so important.
And I thought it was because I think it also stimulated his memory of who he really was. Because I think if you're just, at home all the time, the only time you really go out is on the weekends when your niece takes you out. Just being around these other men, it was reminding him of who he was as a man. And that was one of the most beautiful experiences for me because they kind of embraced me too. Hey Sydney, how you doing? And they would just talk that guy talk.
Right.
And then I would just kind of let him have that moment. And but I kept trying to think of things. How can you enrich his life? And one of the things with a caregiver, I had to do personal care. And personal care is sometimes people, they can't really bathe themselves or dress themselves. And I had to do that. And at first I was a little like, right. Seeing a person, I'm being all shy about it, but I'm thinking, but I can't let him fall down in the shower. So I had to get over a lot of my insecurities about that because it's about caring for this person so that they can be the person they are, get cleaned up, and not fall and hurt themselves.
It sounds like to me, before I say this, please, if you're listening, if you're watching, and you have questions, don't hesitate to call. A lot of times we have things on our mind and we think that question may be not so cool but whatever the question is and you want to answer, call because it's always important and we want to hear it. But it sounds like...
Give them the number again.
The number again is 310-910-9676. Again, 310-910-9676, extension 1. Now, it sounds like to me that you had to, every day. Now, did you care for him every day, or was it just a couple of days out of the week?
It was Monday through Friday.
So you had to do a whole new schedule. That was another job besides what your life was all
Yes,
about. So
yeah.
you had to every day figure out, okay, what am I going to do with Herbert today?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with Herbert this afternoon or at lunchtime? How am I going to do this? So you had to mentally prepare yourself,
I did.
because this was something that was not a part of your everyday life or a part of your agenda.
No, it wasn't. You're right. I did. I had to make him as a priority, and I had to think outside the box about what's going to meet his needs, because we're human beings, and of course, living by myself, I'm single, I'm thinking about my needs most of the time. But when you're giving care for somebody, and that's the job you've been asked to do, I had to think about what's going to be good for him. And so once I would get with him and get him washed up and getting dressed, and then once I got him dressed, he was always ready to go. Like, we're going somewhere. And so sometimes I may take him out to a breakfast place, and every time I would take him somewhere, people would respond to him. One time I took him to a place in Inglewood. I think that time might have been the Serving Spoon. And
Okay.
he liked that vibe there.
Okay.
He liked the music, and for some reason, there's a lot of women, and he was like, for some reason, look at her.
Okay.
And
he didn't forget that.
He did not forget that. Look at her butt.
Yeah, right.
But so I was helping him, and they bring the food, and a beautiful young couple came in, and they kind of acknowledged us and everything, and they were sitting across from us. So when the bill came, and I was ready to pay the bill, and his niece would, she always would provide that, so, I wasn't coming out of my pocket for that. But I was getting ready to pay the bill, and the waitress said, "Oh, it's been taken care of." And this young man that was sitting across from us, he had taken care of the bill. And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And it was a rainy day, and getting him out to the car. Once I got him in the car, the young lady that was with that man, she came tapping on my window, and I was like, "It's raining." I'm pulling the rain.
Exactly.
And then she said, "My boyfriend was so moved by the way you treated your father." I said, "Well, he's not my father." I said, "I'm his caregiver." She said, "Even more so." And she said, "He wanted you to have this," and put $100 bill in my hand. And it just told me about how people are when, I don't know if this young man was thinking and missing his own father, but I realized that when you do care for somebody, you have to care for them as their own. And that young man blessed me because he recognized my work and he honored me. And I never forgot that.
There was a glow.
I think so.
There was a glow that young couple and that man saw. Mm-hmm. There was a glow. There, and I've seen caregivers be out with the person that they're taking care of, and they have such a like, I really don't want to do this, and they have such a strange look on their face. It's like, wow, it's a job. It's just like really a job, and they don't want to do it. So therefore, there is a look. There is a compassion look.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
A deep. Because
Yeah.
see, you can have compassion, but it doesn't have to be deep.
Mm-mm.
And when it's deep, it comes out. This
Yeah.
way. It's that Jesus light.
I believe that. And, so working with Herbert, and I was with Herbert for 3 years, and we had just such a wonderful, experience together. The hard thing about a disease like Alzheimer's, that you also see the decline in a person. And I would have different activities that we would do. And one of our activities, the stories that he would tell me, I would write down his stories and remind him of his stories. And so I did a writing project where I wrote in big black ink some of his favorite lines that he used to say and some of his stories. And then I would have him read it And he used to read it and he'd laugh because he would remember. But then as things digressed, he would read, like he used to always ask about his wife. And I used to have to tell him that his wife had passed away. But even though it was 20 years ago, to him it was fresh. Right. So that was another loop that we would encompass. And one time, like this was closer towards the end before he passed, he was reading the writing assignment, and then he read the part, I fell in love and got married. Like he had forgotten. I thought, oh my goodness. I said, yeah, you got married. You were very happy.
You were very happy when you got married, yeah.
He was like,
how long was they married? How long was he married? Do you know?
I think I don't know how long they were married, but they had stepchildren. Mm-hmm. He had stepchildren from her, and I think they were probably married for a good 20, 30 years.
Okay. You know, something else that I hear that's very hard as being a caregiver, when that person leave.
Yeah, it's
I hear it's very
it is hard because even though you say, okay, this is a job, I mean, I'm a human being, so I'm always going to be connected. And like with Herbert passed the week after the COVID lockdown. It wasn't COVID that it was just all the other conditions going on with his body, but that's when it happened. And while I was working with him, like, as I was with him like 5 days out of the week, and then also my friends' nieces were helping out, so sometimes I would be able to have some time to myself. And but my friend kept saying, Sydney, you're good at this, you're good at this. And I'm like, I am? She said, yeah. And they saw the difference in their uncle. And so I thought, so maybe I should look more into this, because with the music business, it is up and down. So it might be good. So I got with a company called 24 Hour Home Care, which they not only trained me, but took me through the steps of, I got registered with the County of Los Angeles as a home care health aide. So you had to have that registration. So I did all the little steps, and then they would call me out with different people. So after Herbert passed, and then COVID locked down, and so I called them to tell them, hey, I'm available.
Sure.
And then a whole nother journey happened, because then I started working with other people, and you mentioned when they pass. Now, what I hadn't done before is work with hospice care. Now, I remember when my oldest sister was in hospice care, and also my brother was in hospice care. I have a minimal experience of knowing a little bit about hospice care, but I'd never been a part of it.
Sure.
So they called me on an assignment, and at first when I went to check on this gentleman, he was having a lot of health issues, but it wasn't hospice care at that time.
Okay.
And I just grew to really love this guy. We both had music in common. He had instruments all over his house. His sister was his main caregiver, but she didn't live there, so he needed 24-hour care. So I worked in the daytime. I did like a 12-hour shift, and then somebody else came and did the overnight. And I just loved his sense of humor, and then he had an infection, and he had to go in the hospital, and when he came out of the hospital, the care changed to hospice care. And I was like, hospice? And in my mind, I'm thinking, that's when they project that a person's going to die.
Yes.
And I had to work on myself, because I'd really befriended this man. Every time I would go, we had a really good connection. And as things began to progress with him, I got a little nervous, because I thought about the fact that, wow, they're saying he's going to die, and I'm here in a professional capacity. I don't know what his belief is. I don't know I don't know any of that. So he lived right across the street from a church. So, and I would see that pastor daily, just taking
Sure.
walks. And he would always say, hey, how's my friend? How's my neighbor doing? And I would say, oh, he's doing fine. So then one day I saw him and he said, how's my neighbor doing? And I pulled him. I said, he's not doing well. I said, he's in hospice care. Oh, okay. And I thought he'd want to do something. So I asked him, I said, well, he just woke up. I said, do you want to come in and pray for him? And he said, oh, well, I'm on the schedule to pray for the lady down the street. And I thought, oh my goodness. And that's when I knew, okay, Lord, then it's on me.
It's on you.
It's on me. Because I had asked him one other time, I said, is John a member of your church? Oh, no, he comes, but he likes the stained glass windows. And then he said, he likes Psalm 23. So I would read Psalm 23 since I knew that. And so then I asked him, he was very weak, and I said, John, I said, do you have a particular religious faith? He said, no. And I thought, okay, Lord. And so I just began to intercede and pray, and I said, Lord, guide me on how I can share the love of Jesus, because the signs were happening where your organs start breaking down. And so then I started putting like TBN on, and one time, and his sister had like a playlist of songs, so the playlist that she had was playing, and the song by James Taylor, You've Got a Friend, came on. So while that was playing, I started singing, You've Got a Friend, and I was singing along, and he was semi-conscious, but his hand went straight up, and I just held his hand, and I just kept telling him, I'm here with you, and I'm your friend. And then I told him while he was like that, I said, and you have another friend. I said, there's a friend, his name is Jesus. And I said, and John, you're really close. You're really close to meeting him, and I want you to know him, and that he loves you. And he was semi-conscious, so I didn't know how much that went through. And then I was channel surfing, I saw TBN. And CeCe Winans was on there with Lori Crouch, and they were all sitting around the table singing. And then CeCe started singing. It was an Andre Crouch song. It might have been Jesus is the Answer or something. But anyway, I started singing along with that. And he opened his eyes, and he was kind of nodding his head like he was into it. So then I turned her down, and then I started singing. And then I went back to the song that he was familiar with, You've Got a Friend. And his hand went up again. And so I put my hand in his hand, and then I started singing, kind of freestyling about using that melody of You've Got a Friend, that Jesus is your friend. And I said, John, all you have to do is just say yes. And if you say yes, I said, when you leave this body, you'll see him face to face. I said, I know you can't really talk right now. I said, but if you squeeze my hand, that's a yes. And he squeezed my hand. And he lasted maybe a few more days. But I had such a peace that God gave me a way to share the love of Jesus with him. And I still felt like I did my job, but I have a higher calling, so I did my job for the Lord too.
Yeah. Now, being a caregiver and learning, if I could say, learning the difference is being with someone that's in hospice.
Yeah.
Tell me the ups and the downs of it, because a person being a caregiver for someone can still be in hospice and don't know that they're in hospice.
That's
so
true.
How is it that they determine for you to be able to say, okay, I'm just a caregiver for this person, and as that person is there for Alzheimer's or whatever, but now that person is their sickness, their everything is kind of turning, kind of changing. So now how do you say, okay, well, this is going to be a hospice. This is going into hospice. You're
Well,
going to
now-
hospice. So how?
Now, I don't make that kind of determination, because when they're in hospice, they have a care team.
Okay.
And families that might be listening that know about that. For example, it's usually through maybe whatever hospital they're with, and that hospital, that doctor may connect them with a team. Like Providence is one of them.
Okay.
They have a team, and their specific hospice team will have a doctor, and will have not just one nurse, but different types of nurses, depending on what kind of care they need. And so my job as a caregiver, like through our company, we're not nurses per se, but we'll assist a hospice nurse. The hospice nurse, they're not going to be there every day. We're the ones that are there kind of ground running. But, for example, if this person has been assigned a doctor, they've been assigned a nurse, they may also be assigned a nurse who's specifically to bathe them. Like, I can give sponge baths and so forth, but for someone that's in hospice care and they might have mobility issues, they'll send a nurse specifically that'll be their bath nurse. And I've learned a lot working with the bath nurse, especially how to turn a person and how to clean them properly. And then they'll also have maybe the doctor that's assigned will come and check their vitals and those kind of things. It's not really one of my responsibilities to check vitals, but if I know that that's ongoing, I know how to, take blood pressure and those kind of things. So I will assist. And then we always keep notes of things that we observe. And so when their hospice nurse will look at our notes and see, because they want to know day to day, I don't put in a catheter or change it, but it'll be my responsibility to help empty if they're on a catheter. But that nurse would be the one that would maybe, if they need it changed or anything. So there's a team, and it's usually from the hospital that has designated, okay, this person now is a hospice patient. So I'm a part of that team. And, it's a real commitment to be a part of that team when you're literally holding that person's hand until they're no longer breathing.
You just said something that reminded me. There is a right and a wrong way to change a diaper.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you something. When my older sister was in hospice, my other sister and we would take turns, because my niece lived in Altadena. So my sister and I lived down here, closer.
Yeah.
So what we would do at night, we would say, okay, tonight you gonna go over and change the diaper, make sure everything is fine. Then I'd say, okay, my other sister would go. Girl, when it was my time, I figured, oh yeah, I got this. I could do this. I could do this.
It's more than notion.
Baby, when I went to try to change my sister's diaper, she looked, Miss Margaret, looked at me as to say, would you please leave me alone, because you really don't know what you're doing. Do you know what? I had to wind up calling my other sister, and say, would you please come on down here, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's an art to it.
Yeah,
It's an art to
and
it.
it's a skill, and it depends on the type. Like if they're completely bedbound and they can't really move, because there are some of the adult undergarments that are pull-ups. Yeah. But if a person is bedbound,
she's bedbound, baby.
That's not
I didn't know.
We need the ones that do serve more, go on like a diaper, and you have to be gentle with being able to roll a person to their side. That took me a while, but I learned it. Like, it was this one particular nurse. They had trained me at the company, and I'd looked at videos, but until you actually physically do it, you don't know it until you do it.
Right.
But there was a bath nurse that she taught me, and you have to kind of roll the the underpad that's protecting the bed, roll it, and then roll them on the other side. And so you have to be really gentle with the person,
Right.
because, and especially if somebody is also wearing a catheter, you got to be very careful with them. And you know, and I've done pretty good with it, but I did have a man, and he was also in hospice. I love this guy, but honey, he went out on his own terms. He was already a Christian, so I didn't deal with that, but he remained strong and defiant the whole time. But I learned a lot from him. But he was obese, so it was really difficult to do that with him, and it was kind of like a two-person job. So
Is that a caller? Oh, we got a caller here.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Hello,
Hi, who am I speaking with?
this is Alice.
Hi, Alice. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You have a question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Did I cut you off?
No,
Hello?
you hear. I hear you.
Okay, no, I don't have a question. I have some comments.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So it was really difficult to
Let Alice.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, baby.
My comments?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead with your comments.
Ooh,
Yeah.
look, I'm looking at him. It's kind of... Yes. Hi. Alice? Yes, it is. I'm fine. How are you? No, I don't. I have to actually have some comments. Let me turn this down. I want to turn my thing down out here.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I have a comment actually. When she was talking about the showers and being embarrassed to, not feeling comfortable doing that. Well, I had to do it with my dad.
Oh.
Well, I was supposed to do it with my dad. It's kind of a funny story actually, because when it was my turn to give my dad a shower, I was like, I can't do this. I can't not look at my father with no clothes on. So my daughter was over to my mom's house at this particular time. So I said, Jazz, I said, go in there and watch Daddy in the shower just for a minute. I'm going to be right back. I never came back.
Oh, my goodness.
So my daughter was stuck doing the shower because I could not see my dad with no clothes on.
Yeah.
So you're saying for a stranger, it's probably, it may have been easier, but to see your own parents with no clothes on, it's like, I wasn't going to do that.
No, I
And I didn't do it.
understand that. No, my sister
And another
went
thing,
that
when you were
through
talking
my
about,
dad.
especially, I don't think you know about the sundowners. I don't know if you ever experienced the sundowners.
No, what is the
At
sundowners?
night, when the sun started going down, they would get just this weird attitude where they just got really anxious and they wanted to do something. So every night my father would get so anxious, like, I want to go home, I want to go home. Mind you, he's at home. I want to go home, I want to go see my mother and father. I don't know where they are. They had been passed, for years and years and years. So we would just take him in the car, go drive him around about 30 minutes, come back, and totally fine.
Did he have Alzheimer's?
Totally fine. He didn't realize he had gone if any place or even came back.
Did he have Alzheimer's?
So anyway, those are just some things I wanted to say. And as far as the hospice care you were speaking about, my aunt was 100 years old when they put her on hospice care, and they took her off at 102 because they said her health wasn't declining.
Oh, my goodness.
So literally, so hospice care a lot of times does mean that, but it could take a long time. My aunt was actually on hospice care for 2 years, literally.
Wow.
And they took her off of it when she was 102. Then once they took her off, her health just started declining. So a few months after that, we actually put her back on, and she passed at 103.
Oh, look at her. Now,
Yeah,
she just,
so that's the thing about the hospice care. And it depends story, Cookie. I had that same experience with my mom.
yeah.
It's like, if she didn't have the pull-up, it was me and her one day, and it's like, okay, it's me and you, and boy, it looked like a thong on her. That wasn't cute, so I wasn't good at that either.
I know.
But anyway, I just wanted to say that, and being a caregiver is not an easy job. I did it for years and years and years, and I wasn't trained. It was just doing what God gave me to do.
Yeah.
Now,
Just with a lot of prayer. So I just wanted to commend you as a caregiver and Cookie in your role with Gigi. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Doing what you're doing.
That's okay.
You guys just keep it up and God bless.
Alice,
Yes.
She had a question.
You were talking about your father.
Okay.
Did he have Alzheimer's? Is that what?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yes, he did. And like you said, he kept asking her, "Where's my mother? My mother can go to the store. Where is she? Where is she?"
Right.
You know, she'd be right back. You know, he thought his mother and father was alive.
And that's another thing too. It's like with Alzheimer's, you have to also be careful. Sometimes, and with dementia, sometimes it's if they're have a world that they've created, and you try to say, no, that's not correct. This is what's happening. Sometimes that can cause more problems. So
right, and that's what we didn't do. His mother and father was bad. That's okay. We're going to take you to go see him.
yeah, you
You
just
and like I said, we'll put him in the car. Okay, here he comes. And the funny thing was,
go along with them.
Yeah, my father and his brother didn't speak for years. I mean, like probably 30 years. They didn't even speak to each other. And my father was there one day. He said, "Where is," I want to say his name, I'll just say John. "Where is John?" I said, "Uh-oh, I know something wrong with him. He don't even talk to him." So he started asking about his brother that he didn't even speak to.
Wow.
You know, so they don't remember. He didn't remember not even speaking to his brother. He thought his mother and father was still alive. He thought his brother was still alive. You know, so, and like what you said, it's very sad watching the decline. Extremely sad. Because my father was very active, extremely active, and just to see him and really not know people. He knew who I was, he knew who my mother was. When my grandson would come over, he said, "Who's that little fella?"
Yeah.
You know, and my grandson was there every single day.
And a lot of families go through that, and we thank you for sharing, because I think a lot of people can relate. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you guys,
Alice.
and God bless you.
God bless you, and thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to hold these questions for a minute, because I want to reach out and say thank you to, I have some new sponsors, and I just want I just want to give them a shout out and thank them so much for sponsoring this podcast, and you can be a sponsor if you like. I want to say hello and thank Betty Gober of Inglewood, California, and I also want to give her my condolence, because I understand she just lost her brother, so you have my condolence, Betty. And I want to say thank you to Rita Stamps of Los Angeles, Inez Pace of Inglewood, Shirley Pouncey of Los Angeles, also Jeff Cannon of Suncoast Marketing in South Carolina, and Alice Turner, which I think that was her that just, matter of fact, I know that was her that just called in. I want to thank her. And also Claudine and Jesse Samuels. I want to thank them for calling in, and I want to thank them for supporting Bring It to the Table. Also, I want to say thank you to Alicia Heyman. Thank you so much. These are my new supporters, and I just want to say thank you so very much. And if you want to be a supporter of Bring It to the Table, you can email me at bringgigi@gmail.com, and just email me, and you'll get all the information on how you can be a supporter of this podcast or YouTube. And not only that, if you want to call in, you can call me at area code 323-990-2119. And not just to be a sponsor, but you can call me or email me if there's a particular topic that you want to bring to the table. You can call me with it. And I do know that there's times that you want to talk to someone and you don't want to talk to your family or a friend. You just want to talk to a stranger, which I'm not going to be a stranger, but you can call me and I can still listen, and I'll be right there for you. Again, the phone number is 323-990-2119. And I'm going to kind of push this real quickly, because there's a couple other things I want to get to before 8 o'clock, which we're fastly approaching. As I have to give a shout out to someone that's very, very close to me, very, very dear to me, and I'm very proud of them. I have to give a shout out to Mr. Glenn Gamble. Glenn Gamble has a auto detailing business, and it's awesome. And the ladies like their car shining and smelling good, and not only do the ladies, but we know the men do. So if you want that car to look good and smell good, reach out to Exclusive Touch Detailing and let Mr. Gamble come and put that special touch on your car. You can reach him at 626 328-0435. And there's a special coating that I understand they like on their cars, and it's ceramic coating. Now it has to be, Sydney, it has to be real expensive if he's going to give $150 off if you mention this podcast.
Okay.
So to have that ceramic coating must be expensive. Okay. So reach out to Mr. Gamble at area code 626-328-0435 and get that car looking, and not only looking good but smelling good as well. So yes, again, I want to thank Mr. Lehman Scott for the music, Her Mystical Journey. And if you want to know more about him, you can call him, not only call him, you can reach out to him through his production company. And I'm looking for his website, because I think it's Less Word Work Music, and it's spelled a little different. It's spelled LESWORMUSIK, Less Work Music with the K, and that's his production company.com. Reach out, check him out, and see what else that he's doing. He has composed and written this song, Her Mystical Journey, for me, and I mean, he can do a whole lot of other great things, so check him out. Now let's get back to Miss Sydney Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
Sydney, what if it had not been for, it was your friend, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you have taken this on as another career or
No.
something to do? No,
I wouldn't have, because I wouldn't have thought about it.
okay.
You know, I just believe it was just a door that God opened up. I have done, being in the music business when it's up and down, I've done all kinds of little jobs. I also teach, but I had never even thought about it. In my family, my sister Cynthia, she was the caregiver for like all of us, for my dad, for my sister and all that. So I think that I gleaned and learned from her. But when my friend asked me, hey, can you help me with my family, and she's like family to me, I think I came into it with the right heart of like family.
Now, if it had not been because you guys were like family,
Mm-hmm.
if it had been anyone else, would you have stepped into that?
I don't think so. I think, if somebody had asked me, and I can pay you this amount an hour, I don't know that I would have been so ready to do it, because I think I would have been more caught up in, well, no, I got this to do, and I got that to do, and I don't have time for all that. But I think because my heart was, well, I'm going to help my friend. I think I came into it. But coming into it that way, even though now I get called and work with people I don't even know, I still, now that's the way I came into it. That's what I carry with me.
And that's the only way that you could probably carry it with you, is because of the way you came in. If you had came in any other kind of way, it might not be so fulfilling.
I think you're right. Because when you think about families, like your friend that just called, that's very embarrassing. Your father needs a shower, but I wouldn't want to see my dad naked either.
Right.
But he needs a shower and he can't fall down. And so I have a thing with me. It's like, you're not going to fall down on my watch. So I'm very mindful of that, with people keeping their balance. And when I see what other families are going through with their loved ones, then it's like, okay, I'm a part of this team. Like with this other young man, it was his sister taking care of him. This other gentleman, it was his wife was his main caregiver, but she needed help. So different people, maybe it's their entire family are there, but somebody's got to change his undergarments.
Right, and this is just a thought. Now, you've dealt with the person that had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Okay, and the other person didn't have Alzheimer's, right?
No, he had more physical.
Okay, I know there is a difference in caring for a person that has Alzheimer's or don't have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Where is the compassion in the difference?
That's a good question. You know, I look at people as individuals, so I get to know their personalities, and then I find out what are their needs. Since I had my initial experience with somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia, more recently I had another gentleman who was he used to be a principal, and he had dementia, but it was a different kind of dementia. And when he would be very articulate, it was almost like he was seeing things in the room that were really there, but he was reliving something from his past. Like maybe he thought he was at his church, and so he'd be preaching like a deacon at his church. Other times he's talking as an instructor. And one time he told his daughter, he spoke to her as though she were like a teenager, and she's in her 50s. And so he said, you got to work on your homework. And he was very articulate, because a lot of times he's mumbling. And so she says, Dad, I've graduated. I'm 50 years old. And so she brought a picture of her graduation. Totally messed his mind up.
Wow.
And so I was trying to get her. And so when he kept saying, but you got, and then I said, you know what? I said, the tutor is coming here. He'll be here in about a half hour. He said, oh, okay.
Wow.
And he just needed his mind at peace. You know, then you have people that are dealing with other kind of issues. And so I like to talk to them. What is it that you need from him? You know, they give me a list of this person needs this. But when you talk to a person as a human being and ask them what they need, what can I help you with? That's where the compassion is. And then you also have to put aside your other issues of reacting to people. Because sometimes with people that are older, if they've done things a certain way, they got to do it that way. And you can't really argue with them. I've just, growing up, you know, in my family, I just learned how to say, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Right.
And not argue with them. I just do it what they need to be done. One lady, she's a stroke survivor. So she's got mobility issues, but she does as much as she can on her own that she can do. And what she can't do, then it's like she finally, I said, well, make sure you call me if you need some help. But I'm constantly watching her and looking at her, but she likes to feel independent. And then it's a, Sydney, then she'll call me in, and then I'll help her. So I feel like that's a way of showing compassion, because I'm not trying to do it for her, because she's not a child.
Right.
And so you have to find out, some people want you to do it all. And I'm like, okay.
Right. Do you, since you, now that you're in this, do you have a preference? What do you want to deal with someone with Alzheimer's or not? Or does it not matter? Because you know, because people, some people doing this, say, well, you know what? No, I don't think I want to deal with a person with Alzheimer's. You know, I prefer dealing with someone else this way. What do you prefer? Or
that's a very good question. Now, Alzheimer's, dementia, I have experience with that, so I feel like I'd be a good part of that team. It doesn't bother me, because I learned some skills now. Most anybody else that I'm working with, like stroke survivors, they have mobility issues. I just want to make sure I'm strong enough physically to help them. Where I've had issues is, like, for example, families that have a loved one with Parkinson. Parkinson really cripples the body, where the mobility, it's really difficult for them to physically move. So most of the time with somebody with Parkinson's, that's a two-person job. And when I have worked with people with Parkinson's, I'm usually assisting. Like, for example, I've had two clients. They were both males that had it, and they were big guys, and I was thinking, ooh, how am I going to do this? But they had wonderful sons that were doing a lot of the physicality, and I was assisting them. But that's a real hard one, so I would never take that on by myself, because I had one lady that she was Parkinson's, and I couldn't even really by myself help her go to the bathroom. I needed somebody like one of the caregivers at the assisted living to help me do that. And she requested me again, but I told the people at the office, I said, I don't feel I can fully serve her because I can't really work with her on my own. She needs two people.
Right. Well, at least you were very honest about that.
Yeah.
You know? And it's amazing, and we're really running out of time, but it's amazing for me to hear you talk about this, and that now I know another compassionate love that you have. You've always been a loving person. You've always have, ever since I've known you. But to see you do this, and you put just as much into this as you do your first love.
Yeah.
And just to give the audience and those that are out there listening a little bit about Sydney. Sydney sings professionally. She teaches it. She's traveled the world. She's worked with the world's greatest people in this business. And I think I heard you say something a little bit earlier. Was it Sam Cooke and also
no, Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye
gave me my very first break.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
His last tour was my first tour. Yeah.
I love it. And I know it's like 7:52. How many minutes do I have? I got 4 minutes. What I'm going to ask, I'm going to ask you to close us out. Whatever's placed on your heart to sing. But as I always say to my listeners, we usually close out with Mystical Journey. And as I would always say, peace, one love. I'm going to say peace, one love right now. But before I say that, I've got some hot topics that's coming, so please listen, because we got one that's coming. How do you unmask yourself? It's coming to the table. We've got some good topics and some good people that want to come and speak about those things. But anyway, I'm going to say peace, one love. Sydney, take us home.
Okay. I just want to say to anybody that's out there loving on somebody as a caregiver, just be present. And this is the song I'm gonna share. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what a foretaste of glory divine, heir of salvation, purchased by God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story. This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. And I just want to pray for everyone out there. Trust in God and be with your loved ones, and know that He will give you the strength to care for them. He will guide you all the way.
Thank you. Peace, one love.